I used an excessive amount of fire, and I'm kind of a little bit worried about it. I just won't put my head too close to any of those flames. That top one is a little... We're gonna put that one out. Just imagine that the snowmen have a light in there. I got a little bit too afraid. I needed a tea light, but my tea light wasn't really working, so I gave up. Anyway. Hi, welcome to my December wrap-up where I read an obnoxious amount of books, and I'm about to tell y'all about it. I'm trying to remember what stats I used to tell you at the beginning of these videos, but that doesn't matter because I have a new statistics thing that I have written down. Oh, my TBR. What was my TBR? I should have written this down. I really wish I had a bigger bookshelf or a better angle, but you know, we can't have everything we want in life. Anyway, on my TBR for this month, I had quite a lot of books, but I think it ended up evening out to, oh, I don't even have that journal anymore. It's in my thing. 10 books or 11 books or something like that. And out of that, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 5 or 6 on my physical TBR. Yeah, I read 5 or 6 books off my TBR. I don't know the exact numbers because it was the holidays. Need I say more? Anyway, so I read, you ready? 24 books last month. Yes, I know it sounds insane, but 20 of those books were rereads. So it wasn't like mental capacity that I had to extend. No mental capacity was extended. It was all rereads. And of that, I read 4 new books. I had 4 4 stars. I had 2 4.5 stars, and then 19 5 stars, although those were mostly all rereads. Okay. So my final total for this entire year was 190 books read. Yes, I know it's insane. Yes, I probably need to do a video talking about all the books I read because I wasn't doing YouTube at the time, so it'd probably be interesting actually to go over my getting back into reading this year, because this year I did get back into reading. When I was younger, I had a different reading journal where I'd keep like a bunch of random statistics, and so I decided to keep it over onto here just for funsies. So the average rating that I had this month was 4.83 stars. The median, which is basically if you line them all up in the row and you find whichever one's in the middle, that was 5 stars. Insane, I know. The mode, so the one I had the most of, was 5 stars, and the range was only 2 stars. Pretty good month altogether. So let me give you a little overview of all the books I read, shall we? So first and foremost, last month I ended off reading The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis, and I started off this month strong by reading the rest of the series. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books that I read were this series, which is fantastic. I gave them all 5 stars. I think Magician's Nephew I gave 4.5 stars just because I've never really enjoyed that book quite as much as the rest of these, but rereading them, I had a greater understanding for them. Like, they definitely feel a lot more like a children's story, like a children's, what is it called? Children's fantasy? I don't know how to describe it, but they're really good, and I really like the way they're written, and I really like the characters, and I was understanding like the foreshadowing and so much stuff, so much more than when I read them the first couple times when I was younger. So really recommend these. They're fantastic. Next book that I've read was Rhythm of War. I know. I finally finished all my rereads, and it was just in time for me to not order the book on time and get the book way later, and I still haven't finished it. So I cannot give you an update on how that was. That book was also on my physical TBR for this month, and I still have not finished it, and it is, you know, a decent amount into January, so it's fine. I'm getting there. I think I'm like 600 pages through. So far, I am mixed reviews, and there will be a reading vlog coming out on that. But this book is done. Gave it 5 stars. Obviously, so glad that I don't have to do the reread anymore because I like rereading them, but it's just, they're big. They're really big. All right, the next one I picked up, this one was for funsies because I just wanted a book to read. And a while ago, I think I actually put this on Libby on hold. And so I got Elle Enchanted to listen to. I don't think I've ever listened to this book before on audiobook. I have read it. Sorry, I just got my bangs again. They're driving me bonkers. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna mess with them the whole time. They were like this earlier today. Kind of cute. In my eyeballs. Why do I do this to myself? I did this. I held the scissors. Oh well. Anyway, I reread Elle Enchanted, 5 stars, wonderful book, 10 out of 10. I finished it while I was at work, and I kind of wish I didn't because I was on the verge of tears, actually, because I think all the other times I've read this book, I kind of skimmed over the ending because once things tend to get more exciting and more fast-paced, I kind of tend to skim over the action. And I think listening to it forced me to listen to the conclusion of the book in a way that I've never read it before, and it made me understand in my soul how the ending came to pass, and I believed it. Where before I was just like, yeah, it happened, you know, love the rest of the book. No, I am a deep, in my core, like, I believe all this stuff happened. Why does this matter? No, it doesn't. Now I'm stuttering. All right, the next book I read, this one was actually for a reading video. So the next couple ones I have talked about, actually a lot of these I've talked about in depth, but we're gonna give you a little preview again of them. So Little Women by Louise May Alcott, 5 stars, obviously. Wonderful, wonderful book. Honestly, if I could go back and read this again for the first time, I wouldn't, because every time I've read it, I've gained a new appreciation and knowledge of the characters in the world and love for them in my soul, and so I don't think I would reread that book for the first time, but I would love rereading it for the second and third and fourth and 70th times. It's so good. I also read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Don't have a physical book, but that's okay. I have never listened to that book before. I'm probably in class, you know, but no one really, you know, pays attention in class, but I listened to the audiobook and it was absolutely wonderful. I completely understand why it's a classic. 5 stars. So good. And then I reread A Quiet Little Woman by Louise May Alcott. I've read this a couple times around Christmas time. This is definitely stories for like younger girls, and I really loved it when I was younger. Still really love it. It's just a cute Christmas anthology. And if you know me, I love me a good Christmas anthology. And then I also read My Lady Jane, which was recommended to me by my boyfriend's cousin's niece, who's around my age. Crazy, I know, it's a weird family tree. And she recommended it to me, she's like, you need to read this book. And I was like, sure, I'll read this book. I went into it thinking that it was a short story anthology because it had 3 different authors on the cover. No, it wasn't. It was one book, but it was a good book. I gave it 4 stars because it had a great deal of sexuality in it. I don't remember if it swore. It might have. Yeah, I think it did swear actually. And it didn't have any like explicit sexual scenes, but it definitely talked about it quite a lot. Just more than I felt comfortable with, you know, but it was really cute. I did really enjoy the story. All right, the next book I read was The Book of Mormon. This was finishing Come Follow Me for this year, but since I read the entire thing, I figured I might as well mark it down as a book I read this year because, you know, I definitely read it. 5 stars, as always. Now we get into the Christmas anthologies. So we have All Hearts Come Home for Christmas. The first story is by Sarah M. Eden, and this is called Christmas at Fallstone Castle. I have this pretty special edition that is pretty. It came with when I bought all of these special editions. So I hadn't read it yet and I decided I should read it, but then along the way before I read it, I picked up this one at the thrift store. And so the rest of the short stories in this book are called are by Anita Stansfield, Esther Hatch, and Joanna Banker. Now, I think I've decided that I don't like Anita Stansfield's writing. I have one more book by her on this TBR stack, and after I read that, I'm probably not going to read any more by her because, you know, I bought it, so I'm going to read it. But anyway, I have full detailed thoughts about this book in a reading vlog, but I gave it 4.5 stars, mostly for, you know, Sarah M. Eden and her wonderful short story, which is my favorite, and I almost cried. And then Esther Hatch was pretty good. Joanna Baker, what was that one about? That one was fine. So, like, there was 2 of them that I was like, fine. The Esther Hatch probably was like a 4.5, and then this is a 5 star. So I was just like, you know what, I'll just even it out and give it a higher score, because if I evened it out entirely, it would be 3 stars. It just feels wrong to give a Sarah M. Eden book a 3 star when really the part of her book that I loved wasn't a 3 star. So I bumped it up purely for that. And then we've got Hatchet by Gary Paulson. This is a reread. I also reread the rest of the series, but I'll talk about them as I get to them. This was a 5 star, mostly for the nostalgia. It did read way more middle grade than I remember. It's definitely a book for boys, and it's definitely like we did this and then this and then this and then this and then this, you know, kind of a story. But I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoy the way that he writes, and I kind of forgot that over the years. So then I went and reread the entire series. But before I reread the entire series, I read Meet Me Under the Kissing Bough by Josie S. Kilpack, Annetta R. Walker, and Sarah L. McConkey. Now, this one I rated 4 stars overall. It was fine. There was a couple that I was like, oh, this is really cute. And there was one that was like, I don't really like this. It's cute. I love the cover. They don't have to be perfect. You know, those don't have to be perfect. They're really just the vibes. And then I reread Yearbook by Ali Condi. I love this book. Oh, I'm getting literal goosebumps just thinking about this. I need to reread the rest of the series. I really want to this month. I'll see when I get to it. I desperately want to reread it though. Will I have like the characters and the story fresh in my brain? So good. Again, if anyone reads this book, please let me know. Please let me know. I love it. It's so good. It's clean. There's no swearing. There's nothing. It's just pure, wholesome goodness. And there's romance. It's so good. It's so good. Anyway, you don't need me to rant about this again. I've ranted about that book so many times. And then we've got Brian's Winter by Gary Paulson. This is technically the 3rd book in the series, but I always read it second because it happens right after the events of Hatchet, but in like an alternate timeline where if something happened at the end of the book, what would have happened if this had happened instead of this had happened, basically. And so he's there, during the winter trying to survive. That one was always my favorite when I was younger because I loved the thought of him being there in winter for some reason. 5 stars, wonderful book. And then this is the book that I was reading with my boyfriend because I like to read him a book before bed sometimes, because we started doing that when I was at college as a way to like connect in the evenings, you know, because we couldn't really do anything else, so I'd just read him a book. But we were reading The Tale of Despereaux because I love it and he likes the story. I don't know if he loves it as much as I do. This was very much a nostalgic childhood reread for me, but we finished reading it this month because I wanted to finish it this year, because I was like, I started it this year, I want to finish it, you know, sense of completion. We've got The River by Gary Paulson, technically the second, but I would always read it third. So that one I gave 4.5 stars because it's not like my favorite in the series. It doesn't really have the same vibe as the other ones do, but I still really enjoyed it, so I gave it 4.5. And then we've got Remembering the Joy of Christmas by a bunch of different authors, but the first author in the list is Anita Stansfield. So again, don't like Anita Stansfield, but the rest of the ones in the book were pretty good. You know, there was like 40 or something authors because it was just a bunch of short stories from their lives of things that happen around Christmas that help them remember either, you know, the reasons why they loved Christmas or came closer to their families or Christ or something like that. It was cute. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Not really memorable. Honestly, if it wasn't a Christmas one, I probably would have given it 3 stars, but because it's Christmas, Christmas automatically gives you a bump up in my book. And that is the end of all the Christmas books I read, but then I went and finished out the rest of the Hatchet series. So we've got Brian's Return, which is the 4th one by Gary Paulson, gave that 5 stars, and Brian's Hunt, the 5th one by Gary Paulson, gave that one 5 stars also. I remember when I was younger always feeling like the books kind of ended on a cliffhanger, and they kind of do. Like, you don't really get to know what happens to Brian. As far as I know, those are the only books in the series. So if there's more, let me know. I could also do a very quick Google search, but I haven't done that yet. I probably should. And then finally, actually, I think on Christmas Eve itself, I finished reading the New Testament because that was my personal scripture study this year. I'd read some other books some other scripture stuff along the way, but that was the one I wanted to finish before the end of the year. And I did. So, you know, 5 stars as always, but it's scripture. And then those are all the books I read in December. On my TBR, I can go through that really quick just for fun, what I didn't get to and why. So I actually picked this up. It's called Undercover Christmas Escape. This is one I was going to read to my boyfriend because I was like, this sounds so funny, but I literally started reading it. I got like maybe 3 pages in, and it was just description after description after description after description, and then, oh my goodness, he's so attractive, and description after description after description. So I'm probably going to read this next year on my own for fun, but I'm not going to read it to my boyfriend because I literally could not keep a straight face as I was trying to read it to him. So I started that one. We're going to finish that next year. It's fine. I also really wanted to get to Snapdragons. I actually started a video that I'm going to read this in, so it's going to be on my TBR for next month. Again, I just was super busy reading other stuff, and I didn't have a lot of time to sit down because I was, you know, if you've seen my videos, I was busy. But I'm excited to get back to reading more physical things because most of these books, like, even if I had the physical copy, I read it as an audiobook. Like, it was, I did not sit down and read a physical book besides Rhythm of War and Yearbook and maybe The Tale of Despereaux the whole month. It was just all audiobooking. I also had this one on here, The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, and I was considering reading it specifically because it's short, but I just didn't end up having time, so we'll get to this one later. And then some of the holiday books that I didn't end up getting to were A Gingerbread Romance, 29 Gifts, another romance anthology, which I'm grateful I have another one to read next year, which is always fun, and A Cross Country Christmas. Again, those will be books for next year. I kind of assumed I wasn't going to get to all of them, but I finished the books that I wanted to read because I put them kind of all in my TBR, but as like I just want to read 3 of these, and I did. I read 3 of them. I need to turn one of those candles off. It's smelling very smoky in here. And then the other 2 that were physical were Francine Rivers' Redeeming Love. This one just keeps getting put on TBR after TBR. The Dye really loves it. I will get to it eventually. I honestly just didn't have time. And then Magnolia Parks. Again, didn't have time, plus it did not feel Christmassy enough to read that. Those are the books that I read in December and the ones I didn't read and why. And I'm excited to read more this month. I'm going to film my TBR right now, and I'm actually kind of ecstatic about it, but thank you for coming along with me. We need to do what I do every day, take over the world. I've read a decent amount. It's not bad. I don't think I've had a stack that is this big in a long time. I've had big TBRs, but I don't think I've had big finishes yet. These are all the books I read in December. I'm excited to read what I read in January, and I'm excited for all my new January reading goals and stuff like that. It's gonna be really fun. That'll be a whole different video. Again, like always. I was gonna say I'll see you next year, but it is next year. I will see you. No, that is Destiny's thing. What's my thing? I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next video. Goodbye.